Hello everyone, I am Defni Meleesa. I am a student of Niwasa Institute Abhiman Sir Science class. Today, I am going to do a lesson explanation about Unit 1, Wonders of the Living World. Did you know what the environment is? The environment is our surrounding, including us. It consists of land, water bodies, houses, etc. The components in the environment can be categorized under two main groups. The first group is living organisms. Living organisms are the organisms that have a growth. The second group is non-living things. Non-living things do not have a growth. So, living things can be divided into three main groups. The first group is microorganisms. Microorganisms are the organisms that cannot be observed with our naked eyes. So we need to use the compound light microscope to observe them. Examples for microorganisms are amoeba, chlamydomonas, paramecium, bacteria. The second group is plants. Plants can be different from each other based on their morphological features. That means roots, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits, and seeds. They can be different from each other based on their nature too. That means trees, plants, shrubs, and creepers. They can be different based on their habitat. That means terrestrial, aquatic, coastal, and mangrove. Then the third group is animals. Animals can be different from each other based on their living environment or habitat. That means terrestrial, aquatic, and air. They can be different based on their external characteristics. That means their color, appendages, and their shape. They can be different based on the type of food. That means omnivorous, carnivorous, and herbivorous. They can be different based on their mode of locomotion. So examples for their mode of locomotion are jumping, swimming, running, flying, and they can be different based on their feeding mechanism. That means chew, suck and swallow. And animals can be different based on their feeding mechanism. That means suck, swallow without chewing, and chew and swallow. And now let's discuss about the characteristics of organisms. There are 5 main characteristics of organisms. The first characteristic is growth. The increase in size, height, or amount is known as growth. Examples for growth are a puppy becomes a dog and germination of a seed. The second characteristic is nutrition. Satisfying the food requirements of organisms is known as nutrition. There are two main nutritional methods. The first nutritional method is autotrophic. Autotrophic organisms can produce their own food within themselves. They use a special process called photosynthesis for this. Use carbon dioxide from air, sunlight, and soil water to produce food is known as photosynthesis, and as a byproduct, they can produce oxygen. And the second nutritional method is heterotrophic. Heterotrophic organisms are the organisms that cannot produce their own food within themselves. So, they need to depend on plants directly or indirectly. The third characteristic of organisms is movement. Different animals use different appendages. The third characteristic is movement. So, moving from one place to another place is known as locomotion. Different animals can use different appendages to locomote from one place to another place. For example, humans use legs and snakes, they use scales. Fish use fins and birds use wings. So, like that, they can use different appendages. But there are some animals like coral polyp and sea anemone that cannot locomote from one place to another place. But still, they can show different types of movements. Plants grow fixed to the surface, so they too cannot locomote from one place to another place. But they can show movements. One type of the movements they show are sleeping movements. Examples of sleeping movements are a plant bending towards the sunlight. A mimosa plant shows sleeping movements when it is touched. Plants such as tamarind, albenzia, suspania show sleeping movements in the evening. So, the fourth characteristic is respiration. Once oxygen in the air, the fourth characteristic is respiration. Oxygen in the air, once breathed in, reacts with the food stored in the body and produces energy. This process is known as respiration. Oxygen needed to breathe is taken into the body by inhaling, and carbon dioxide is released from the body by exhaling. So, the chest moves up and down because of the process of inhaling and exhaling. And these movements are known as respiratory movements. And now we can do an experiment to check whether exhaled air contains carbon dioxide. To do this experiment, you will need a test tube or a glass, a drinking straw, and some colorless lime water. First, you need to put some colorless lime water into the test tube or the glass, and then we need to bubble exhaled air into the colorless lime water. Then, after some time, we can observe that the colorless lime water turns milky white. So we can conclude that exhaled air contains carbon dioxide. So, the fifth characteristic of organisms is reproduction. A mature living being producing new members of the same species is known as reproduction. Examples for reproduction are a mother giving birth to a baby, germination of a seed. So now let's see the differences between plants and animals. So, plants grow fixed to the ground, so they cannot show locomotion, but they can show different types of movements. Animals can do both locomotion as well as movement. So the second difference is plants can produce their own food within themselves. Hence, they are autotrophic. But animals cannot produce their own food within themselves. So they have to depend on plants directly or indirectly. Hence, they are known as heterotrophic organisms. The third difference is chlorophyll is present in the cells of plants, but it is absent in the cells of animals. And the last difference is plants can grow throughout the entire lifespan, so their growth is unlimited. But the growth in animals is limited and their growth visibly stops after a certain period of time. So now let's see about dichotomous keys. Categorization of organisms using the presence or absence of a characteristic feature is known as a dichotomous key. It is more suitable to use external features that can be observed easily. Thank you and goodbye.